In a small-town bar in Montana, what started as routine intimidation became one of the most shocking takedowns in law enforcement history. When the Iron Wolves motorcycle gang thought they'd found an easy target in a quiet woman drinking coffee, they never expected to encounter Detective Sarah Cole, a decorated undercover operative whose response would shatter their criminal empire. This is the extraordinary story of how a single confrontation exposed a $100 million drug operation, brought down corrupt police officials, and transformed a feared motorcycle gang into a cautionary tale. Sometimes the most dangerous adversary isn't the one making threats, but the one quietly waiting for them to make their final mistake. Let's take a quick break. Tell us where you're tuning in from. If this kind of content speaks to you, don't forget to subscribe because tomorrow's story is something truly special. The evening had started quietly at Brady's Bar and Grill, just like any other Tuesday. Detective Sarah Cole sat at her usual corner spot, steam rising from her coffee cup as she watched the last rays of sunlight fade over the Montana mountains. 15 years of undercover work had taught her the value of blending in, of being the person nobody remembers. Her badge and service weapon remained concealed beneath her worn leather jacket, just another patron enjoying a peaceful evening. Jenny Miller, who'd owned Brady's for the past decade, approached with a fresh pot of coffee. "You're looking tired, Sarah," she said, topping off the cup. "Those long shifts are going to catch up with you someday." Sarah managed a slight smile, unconsciously touching the scar hidden beneath her collar, a souvenir from her last major operation. "Just need a quiet evening, Jenny. Nothing more." The familiar rumble of motorcycles shattered the peace. Not the usual weekend riders or casual bikers, but the distinctive sound of custom Harleys, machines built to intimidate. Sarah counted the engines by sound. 6, maybe 7. Through the bar's front window, she watched the Iron Wolves roll into the parking lot, their chrome gleaming under the neon signs. Marcus Razor Thompson led the pack, his massive frame filling the doorway as he entered. The Iron Wolves patch on his leather cut seemed to catch the light, the snarling wolf's head a symbol feared across 3 states. Behind him, Mike Titanium Wilson and 4 other high-ranking members filed in, their movements practiced and predatory. The regular patrons tensed. Conversations died mid-sentence. A couple near the door quietly paid their bill and slipped out. Sarah remained motionless, watching their reflections in the mirror behind the bar while cataloging details with practiced precision. Razor carried a knife in his boot. Titanium had a poorly concealed pistol under his cut. The others were positioned to control the room, not their usual drinking formation. "Jenny, sweetheart," Razor's voice boomed across the bar. "We missed you at the town council meeting last night. Mayor Harrison was asking about you." Jenny's hands trembled slightly as she set down the coffee pot. "Had inventory to do, Marcus. You know how it is." Razor moved closer, his smile never reaching his eyes. "Thing is, when the mayor calls a meeting, it's not really optional. He's trying to help this town grow, needs everyone's support." His hand came down hard on the bar, making glasses rattle. Sarah noticed the fresh bruises on Jenny's wrist, partially hidden by her sleeve. The protection money wasn't enough anymore. The Iron Wolves were tightening their grip on the town, and Brady's was their next target. "Maybe," Jenny said, her voice stronger than expected. "The mayor should focus on running the town instead of letting criminals dictate policy." The bar went dead silent. Razor's fake smile vanished. "What did you just say to me?" Sarah moved before conscious thought took over, 15 years of training and instinct guiding her actions. As Razor reached for Jenny, Sarah's hand locked around his wrist, applying precise pressure to nerve clusters that made his fingers spasm open. "She said," Sarah spoke softly, but her voice carried in the silent bar, "that the mayor should do his job." Titanium and the others moved to flank her, but Sarah remained focused on Razor. The gang leader tried to pull away, but her grip was iron. "Let go of me," Razor snarled, "or my boys here will make you regret it." Sarah smiled, but it didn't reach her eyes. "Will they? Because from where I'm standing, you've got 3 choices. 1, You and your friends leave now, and we forget this happened. 2, you try something stupid, and I send all of you to the emergency room. Or 3, she increased pressure slightly, making Razor wince. We find out just how many bones I can break before you hit the floor. You have no idea who you're messing with, Razor spat. Actually, I do. Marcus Razor Thompson, dishonorable discharge from the Army in '08. The Iron Wolves have been running protection rackets across 3 states, but lately you've moved up to drug trafficking. Did I miss anything? The color drained from Razor's face. Titanium's hand moved toward his concealed weapon, but Sarah's voice stopped him cold. I wouldn't. Your draw is slow, and you telegraph your intentions like a rookie. By the time you clear leather, this will be over. For a long moment, nobody moved. Then Razor raised his free hand in surrender. All right, we're leaving. But this isn't over. Sarah released him, stepping back to give them space to exit. It can be. That's up to you. The bikers backed away, their attempts to look menacing undermined by the way Razor rubbed his wrist. As they mounted their bikes, he shot one last glare through the window. Who are you? Jenny whispered as the motorcycles roared away. Sarah sat back down, taking a sip of her now cold coffee. Just someone who's seen enough bullies for one lifetime. But as she watched the Iron Wolves disappear down the street, Sarah knew Razor was right about one thing. This wasn't over. She'd just painted a target on her back, and if her intel was correct, the drug trafficking was just the tip of the iceberg. The Iron Wolves were part of something much bigger, something that reached far beyond this small Montana town. Jenny placed a fresh cup of coffee in front of her, along with a slice of apple pie. Whatever happens next, the older woman said firmly, you're not alone. Sarah nodded, already running through scenarios in her mind. She'd chosen this town looking for peace, but sometimes peace had to be fought for. And if it was a fight the Iron Wolves wanted, they were about to learn why she was considered one of the most dangerous operatives in 3 states. No, Sarah agreed quietly. I'm not alone, and neither are you. Not anymore. Late that evening, Sarah sat in her apartment above Brady's bar, cleaning her Glock 19 with practiced precision. The encounter with the Iron Wolves played through her mind as she considered her next move. A knock at her door interrupted her thoughts. It's open, Captain, she called out, not looking up from her work. Captain James Russell stepped inside, his weathered face betraying concern. Word travels fast in a small town. Heard you had a run-in with Razor and his boys. Just a friendly conversation with some customers who were being impolite. Russell sighed, settling into a chair across from her. Look, Detective, I know about your background. 15 years undercover, multiple commendations, operations so classified even my clearance can't access them. Sarah finally looked up, meeting his gaze. Then you know I can handle myself. That's exactly what worries me. The Iron Wolves aren't just some local gang anymore. They've got connections, deep ones. Last month, my narcotics unit found a drug lab that would supply half the state. Before we could move in, orders came down from state level to back off. Sounds like someone's being paid to look the other way. Mayor Harrison holds town meetings at the Iron Wolves clubhouse. Half the city council drives new cars they shouldn't be able to afford. I've got a family, Sarah. I can't risk. So you turn a blind eye, Sarah finished for him. I do what I can without getting my people killed. Russell stood, adjusting his belt. I'm not here to tell you what to do. Just be careful. Razor isn't the real power in the Iron Wolves. His boss, Victor Cross, is coming to town next week. The man's connected to drug cartels across 3 continents. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her mind was racing. Cross was a name she'd heard before, during her last operation, an investigation that had gone sideways, costing the lives of 2 fellow officers. Thanks for the warning, Captain. As Russell reached the door, he paused. For what it's worth, Jenny Miller's a good woman. Been serving coffee and pie in this town since I was a kid. What you did today? Well, it's about time someone stood up for her. After Russell left, Sarah pulled out her phone, dialing a number she hadn't used in months. Anderson speaking. Jack, it's Cole. Remember that drug lord we tracked in Chicago? The one that got away? A pause. The one that got Martinez and Thompson killed? Yeah, I think I found his supply chain. Montana, of all places. Christ, Sarah, you're supposed to be retired. I need everything you can get me on Victor Cross and the Iron Wolves MC, official channels only. I don't want to burn any of your backdoor sources. Jack sighed. Give me 48 hours. And Sarah, be careful. Cross isn't someone you want to tangle with alone. Who said I'm alone? Telling and preparing this story took us a lot of time. So if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. The next morning, Sarah was helping Jenny open the diner when a group of motorcycles roared past. Not Iron Wolves this time. Their leather cuts displayed a different insignia, the Steel Angels. Their leader, a massive man known as Bishop, caught Sarah's eye as they passed. There was recognition there, and something else, a message. More trouble? Jenny asked, her voice tired. Maybe not, Sarah replied. The Steel Angels were different, former military mostly. They protected their territory but didn't prey on civilians. And if Sarah's instincts were right, they might be potential allies. Her phone buzzed, a text from Jack. Data coming through. Cross definitely your guy. Body count makes Razor look like an amateur. Got coordinates for drug labs. Also, local intel suggests Steel Angels MC might be enemy of your enemy. Sarah smiled. Things were falling into place. The morning crowd started filtering in. Regulars who'd witnessed yesterday's confrontation. They nodded to Sarah with newfound respect. Word had spread. Someone had finally stood up to the Iron Wolves. Around noon, Officer David Chen entered, making a beeline for Sarah's usual booth. Got something you need to see, he said quietly, sliding a manila envelope across the table. Security camera footage from the highway. Iron Wolves are moving something big. Heavy security, professional drivers, not their usual MO. Sarah reviewed the photos. Military-grade transport vehicles disguised as commercial trucks. Armed escorts positioned with tactical precision. When? Last night. And here's the thing, they're getting sloppy, scared. Razor's got his people watching this place, watching you, but they're not being subtle about it. Sarah had noticed 2 Iron Wolves prospects had been parked across the street all morning, trying too hard to look casual. Your boss know you're showing me this? David smiled grimly. Russell's a good man, but he's scared. Me? I'm tired of watching these bastards destroy our town. Jenny was there for me when my sister died, made sure I had hot meals and a place to study for the academy. I've got her back, same as you. As if on cue, the rumble of motorcycles approached again. The Steel Angels were back, this time pulling into Brady's lot. Bishop dismounted first, his massive frame filling the doorway as he entered. Mind if we join you? He asked, his voice a gravelly rumble. David tensed, but Sarah nodded as Bishop and 3 of his officers slid into the booth. Jenny appeared with coffee, seemingly unfazed by the new arrivals. Heard you had words with Razor, Bishop said after Jenny left. Man's got a reputation for holding grudges. Is that why you're here? To warn me? Bishop chuckled. No, ma'am. We're here because the Iron Wolves are moving drugs through our territory without permission. Military-grade stuff, the kind that gets people killed. And he glanced at David. We thought you might be interested in a conversation about mutual interests. Sarah leaned back, studying the bikers. Their posture, the way they carried themselves, definitely military backgrounds. And unlike the Iron Wolves, they looked her in the eye with respect, not challenge. I'm listening. Officer Chen stays, Sarah said firmly when Bishop glanced at David. Fair enough. Bishop leaned forward. Cross is coming to oversee a major shipment. Something big enough that Razor's got his people running scared. We've got intel, manpower, and motivation. What we need is someone who knows how to run an op like this. Someone with undercover experience. Sarah's expression hardened. You hear a lot? Small community? Law enforcement folks. Word gets around. Bishop's voice softened slightly. I knew Martinez. He was a good man. The mention of her fallen partner hung in the air. After a moment, Sarah spoke. If we do this, we do it my way. Clean, precise, by the book. No cowboy stuff. Wouldn't have it any other way, Detective. As the Steel Angels left, David let out a breath he'd been holding. You sure about this? Sarah watched the bikers mount up through the window. The two Iron Wolves prospects across the street were frantically making phone calls. No, she admitted, but sometimes you have to work with the devil you know to take down the one you don't. Her phone buzzed with an encrypted message from Jack. She opened the file to find detailed satellite imagery of 3 locations just outside town limits. Warehouses registered to shell companies, but clearly serving as Iron Wolves storage facilities. A knock at her door interrupted her analysis. Jenny stood there, looking nervous but determined. You've got visitors, Jenny whispered. In the back alley. They say they're friends of yours. Sarah grabbed her Glock, following Jenny down the back stairs. In the shadowy alley, she found Bishop and his sergeant-at-arms, along with an unexpected figure, Captain Russell. We've got a problem, Russell said without preamble. Cross isn't just coming for a routine inspection. He's moving his entire operation here, permanently. Why? Sarah asked, though she was already piecing it together. Bishop spoke up. Small town's perfect. Remote, controlled local government, easy access to state lines. But that's not the real reason. He handed Sarah a folder. Our contacts spotted these guys arriving at the private airstrip outside town. The surveillance photos showed familiar faces, members of the same drug trafficking network Sarah had encountered in Chicago. The operation that had gone wrong. They're consolidating, Sarah muttered, using the Iron Wolves as cover for a major distribution hub. It gets worse, Russell added. Mayor Harrison called an emergency council meeting tonight. They're voting to slash the police budget by 60%. I'll have to lay off half my officers, including Chen. They're clearing the board, Sarah concluded, making sure there's no official resistance. Bishop nodded grimly. Cross arrives in 3 days. Razor's boys are already setting up additional security. Whatever they're planning, it's big. Sarah studied the photos again. They'll be expecting trouble from law enforcement, maybe rival gangs, but they won't be looking for a coordinated strike force. Former cop, Russell corrected. Not exactly a strike force. Bishop smiled. Half my crew are former Special Forces, Rangers, Marine Recon. We've kept it quiet, maintained our cover as just another MC, but we've got the training. Sarah raised an eyebrow. A motorcycle club full of Spec Ops veterans? Someone's got to watch out for the little guy, Bishop replied. We've been tracking Cross for months, gathering intel, but we needed someone with your specific experience to put it all together. The back door opened, and David stepped out, still in his uniform. We've got movement. 3 Iron Wolves trucks just left their compound, headed for the warehouse district. They're moving things around, Sarah said, consolidating their valuable assets where they can protect them better. She turned to Russell. Captain, I know you're trying to protect your people, but we're going to need some official cover for this. Russell sighed heavily. What did you have in mind? I need David and any officers you trust completely to do some selective enforcement, traffic stops, license checks, anything to slow down their movements and gather intel. They'll complain to Harrison, Russell warned. Let them. It'll make them sloppy, paranoid. She turned to Bishop. I need your people to start pressure testing their security. Nothing obvious, just enough to keep them looking in the wrong direction. Bishop grinned. Already started. My boys ran a few bikes past their checkpoints earlier. Got them all spun up about potential rivals moving in. Good. They'll be expecting gang warfare. They won't be looking for a surgical strike. Sarah pulled out her phone, showing them Jack's satellite imagery. We've got 3 days to map their security, identify vulnerabilities, and set up for the main event. And what exactly is the main event? David asked. We're going to let Cross set up his operation exactly as planned. Let him bring in his international contacts, his whole network, and then, Sarah smiled coldly, We're going to take it all down at once. But we'll need one more piece of the puzzle, Russell said. What's that? Evidence. Enough to bypass Harrison and go straight to the feds. The kind of evidence that makes even corrupt politicians run for cover. Jenny, who had been quietly listening, spoke up. I might be able to help with that. Everyone turned to look at her. Brady's has been here for 40 years. Everybody comes through here eventually, even people who think they're too important to be seen in a place like this, and everybody talks. Sarah looked at the older woman with newfound respect. You've been keeping track? Names, dates, conversations? I may be just a bar owner, but I'm not stupid. I knew someday someone would need to know what really goes on in this town. Bishop let out a low whistle. Ma'am, you might just be the most dangerous person here. Meet back here tomorrow night, Sarah instructed. Bishop, bring your best people. Captain, we'll need everything Jenny's collected, plus whatever your officers can legally gather. We've got one shot at this. As the group dispersed, Jenny touched Sarah's arm. You're not just doing this for the town, are you? This is personal. Sarah thought of her fallen partners, of the operation that had gone wrong. Sometimes personal motivation just means you'll work harder to get it right. Back in her apartment, Sarah spread out the intel, starting to form a plan. Cross had no idea he was walking into a trap 3 days in the making. He thought he was expanding his empire, but he was really stepping into a sniper's crosshairs. Her phone buzzed with a text from Jack. Satellite shows more movement. Whatever they're planning, it's massive. Watch your 6. Sarah sent back a simple reply. Don't worry, this time we're ready for them. The pieces were in motion now. It was just a matter of making sure everyone played their part perfectly. Because in 3 days, the Iron Wolves would learn why you never, ever mess with a cop's chosen home. The next morning brought tense activity across town. David and the remaining trusted officers conducted strategic traffic stops on Iron Wolves' vehicles, while Steel Angels members made their presence known through carefully orchestrated drive-bys of gang territory. Sarah sat at her usual spot in Brady's, watching Razor and 2 of his lieutenants arguing intensely across the street. Their frustration was visible even from a distance. Your coffee's getting cold, Jenny said, sliding into the booth across from her. She placed a worn leather notebook on the table. Here's everything I've got on Harrison and his cronies. 10 years of notes, conversations, meetings that weren't supposed to happen. Sarah flipped through the pages, her expression hardening. Jenny, this is more than just drug trafficking. They've been laundering money through half the businesses in town. Why do you think I started keeping track? My herald, God rest his soul, always said knowledge was power. When he passed and they started pressuring me to sell Brady's, I knew I needed insurance. A commotion outside drew their attention. Razor was shoving one of his own men against a wall, clearly enraged. The pressure was getting to them. Sarah's phone buzzed. A message from Bishop. Package secured. Meet at the old mill. I need to go, Sarah told Jenny. Stay alert. Things are going to get tense before they get better. The abandoned lumber mill sat on the outskirts of town, its rusted equipment serving as silent sentinels. Sarah found Bishop and his core team waiting inside, along with an unexpected guest, a bound and gagged Iron Wolves prospect. Found him snooping around our territory, Bishop explained. Figured he might have something interesting to share. Sarah approached the terrified prospect. She recognized him, one of the newer recruits, barely old enough to drink. What's your name, kid? Tommy, he stammered after Bishop removed the gag. All right, Tommy, let's talk about the shipment coming in with Cross. Tommy's eyes widened. I don't know anything about... Save it, Sarah cut him off. You're wearing a prospect cut, which means you do the grunt work, loading, unloading, keeping watch. You know things. The question is, are you willing to share those things, or do we have to get creative? The young man swallowed hard. They'll kill me. Kid, Bishop growled. What do you think they'll do when they find out you got caught on our turf? Tommy broke. The words poured out. Shipping schedules, guard rotations, the layout of the compound. But it was his last piece of information that made Sarah's blood run cold. "They've got some kind of list," he said. "Names, locations. Cross is bringing it personally. Snake said it's worth more than all the drugs combined." Sarah and Bishop exchanged looks. A list like that could expose entire trafficking networks, or reveal every corrupt official on Cross's payroll. "One more thing," Tommy added, his voice shaking. "They know someone's working against them. Razor's called in extra muscle. Professional guys, not just bikers." Sarah's phone buzzed again. "David. Problem. Harrison just suspended Russell, named Razor's brother as interim captain." "Put him somewhere safe," Sarah told Bishop, nodding toward Tommy. "He might be useful later." Back at Brady's, Sarah found David waiting with Russell and Jenny. The former captain looked defeated. "They're moving faster than we expected," Russell said. "Harrison called it a routine administrative review, but we all know what this means." "They're consolidating power before Cross arrives," David added. "My badge probably won't be worth much by morning." Sarah considered their options. The original plan needed adjustment. With Russell out and legitimate law enforcement compromised, they'd lost their official cover. Her phone buzzed yet again. "Jack. Satellite shows major movement. Multiple vehicles converging on your location. Professional operators, not gang members. Watch yourself." As if on cue, 3 black SUVs with tinted windows rolled slowly past Brady's. "They're not even trying to be subtle anymore," David muttered. "They don't need to be," Sarah replied. "They think they've got control of the town. That makes them confident. Confidence makes them sloppy." Jenny watched the SUVs disappear around the corner. "What do we do now?" "We change the plan," Sarah said firmly. "They're expecting resistance from law enforcement or rival gangs, so we give them exactly what they're watching for while we hit them from a direction they'll never see coming." "The Steel Angels?" Russell asked. "Part of it, but we've got another card to play." Sarah pulled out her phone, dialing Jack. "Remember that favor you owe me? I need satellite coverage, real time, and I need you to make some calls. It's time to wake up some old ghosts." As night fell over the town, more black SUVs arrived. Professional mercenaries mixed with Iron Wolves members, setting up checkpoints and patrol routes. They were preparing for war, but they were preparing for the wrong kind of fight. In the basement of Brady's, Sarah laid out the revised plan to her core team. The Steel Angels would play their part, making noise and drawing attention. David and Russell would work their remaining law enforcement contacts. Jenny's evidence would be their insurance policy. But the real operation? That would come from the shadows, executed by people who specialized in the impossible. "Tomorrow," Sarah told them, "Cross arrives with his precious list and his international contacts. He's expecting to find a town under his complete control. Instead, he's going to find out what happens when you underestimate the wrong people." Outside, thunder rolled across the mountains. A storm was coming to this small Montana town. By the time it was over, nothing would be the same. Dawn broke over the town with an eerie calm. The Iron Wolves' increased security had turned the streets into something resembling a military occupation. Black SUVs patrolled in regular patterns while armed men in tactical gear maintained checkpoints at key intersections. Sarah watched from her window as Razor personally oversaw the placement of surveillance cameras around Brady's bar. They weren't even trying to hide their intimidation tactics anymore. Her phone vibrated. A secured message from Jack. "Ghost team in position. 6 operators, all former special ops. They'll follow your lead." A smile tugged at her lips. Jack had come through, calling in operators she'd worked with before. Men who owed her their lives, who would work in the shadows without needing recognition or official sanction. "Commander," Bishop's voice came through her encrypted radio. "We've got movement at the airstrip. 3 private jets just landed. Looks like Cross is arriving early." Sarah grabbed her gear bag, weapons, and equipment carefully chosen for the operation ahead. "Copy that. Maintain distance. Let them think they've got control of the board." Downstairs, Jenny was serving coffee to a mix of locals and Iron Wolves members. The tension in the diner was thick enough to cut with a knife. Sarah caught Jenny's eye, giving her a subtle nod. The older woman casually walked to the back, flipping the sign on the diner's door to closed, before disappearing into her office. David slipped in through the back door, still wearing his uniform despite having been officially suspended. Harrison just called an emergency town meeting for noon. Mandatory attendance for all business owners. They're going to make their play. Complete takeover, Sarah said, using legitimate businesses as fronts for their operation. There's more, David added, his voice low. My contacts at state police say they've been ordered to avoid our jurisdiction entirely. No response, no matter what gets reported. Sarah checked her watch. 4 hours until the town meeting. 4 hours to set their pieces in place. Her radio crackled. Commander, this is Ghost 1. We've got eyes on Cross. He's traveling with serious protection. Former special forces, maybe CIA. These aren't street thugs. Numbers at least 12 operators plus Iron Wolf's muscle. They're heading for the main compound now. Sarah pulled up the satellite feed Jack had provided on her laptop. Multiple vehicles were converging on the Iron Wolves' headquarters, a supposedly abandoned factory on the edge of town. Bishop, what's your count on total hostiles? 20 Iron Wolves members plus Razor's new muscle. Add Cross's security detail. We're looking at 40 minimum. All armed, all professional. Good odds, Sarah replied, earning a chuckle from the biker leader. David looked concerned. That's not good odds. That's suicide. Numbers don't win fights, Sarah said, checking her weapons one last time. Position, timing, and initiative do. Besides, we're not looking to win a straight fight. A black SUV pulled up outside Brady's. 2 men in expensive suits stepped out, heading for the door. Right on schedule, Sarah muttered. David, get to Russell. Make sure he's ready. Bishop, have your people start their run in 30 minutes. Ghost team, maintain shadow surveillance only. The suits entered, scanning the nearly empty diner before approaching Jenny's office. Sarah could hear their conversation through the thin walls. Miss Miller, Mayor Harrison sent us to escort you to the town meeting early. He'd like to discuss some proposed changes to local business regulations. Jenny's voice was firm. The meeting's not for hours. I'm busy with inventory. This isn't a request, ma'am. Sarah tensed, ready to move, but Jenny handled it perfectly. Let me get my coat. As Jenny emerged from her office, she gave Sarah the slightest nod. Everything was proceeding according to plan. The next few hours would determine everything. Cross and his operation were consolidating their power, preparing to turn this small town into the hub of their criminal empire. They had the numbers, the weapons, and the tactical advantage. What they didn't have was the one thing that mattered most, the understanding of who they were really fighting. Sarah's phone buzzed one final time. Jack. Satellite shows another convoy approaching from the north. Heavy vehicles, probably weapons shipment. Whatever they're planning, it's happening today. Copy that, Sarah replied. Time to show them why you don't mess with a cop's home. She reached for her radio. All units, Operation Shadow Strike is a go. I say again, Shadow Strike is green lit. Execute according to plan. Across town, hidden figures began moving into position. The Steel Angels mounted up, their engines echoing off the mountains. And in the shadows, 6 highly trained operators readied their weapons. The storm was about to break, and when it did, the Iron Wolves would learn that sometimes the most dangerous predator is the one you never see coming. The town hall's parking lot filled quickly as locals arrived for Harrison's mandatory meeting. Black SUVs flanked the entrance, while armed men in tactical gear conducted pat-downs on everyone entering. Inside, Victor Cross sat quietly behind the mayor's podium, watching the townspeople file in. All units report, Sarah whispered into her radio as she observed from a nearby rooftop. Ghost 1 in position. We have eyes on the weapons convoy. 6 trucks, heavily armed escort. Bishop here. My boys are ready to make some noise. David checking in. Russell's got our insurance package ready to move. Sarah watched through her scope as Razor strutted around the town hall, playing the role of enforcer. The metal briefcase handcuffed to his wrist likely contained the list Tommy had mentioned. names and details that could bring down trafficking networks across multiple continents.
"Execute Phase 1,
Sarah ordered. The response was immediate. The roar of dozens of motorcycles filled the air as the Steel Angels began their coordinated runs, buzzing Iron Wolves checkpoints and drawing security resources away from key positions. Inside the town hall, Harrison called the meeting to order. "Friends, neighbors, we're here today to discuss some exciting changes coming to our community." Before he could continue, the building's power cut out. Emergency lights kicked in as confused murmurs spread through the crowd. Ghost 2 status on the power station? Primary and backup power disabled. They're running on emergency generators only. Cross leaned forward, whispering something to Razor. The gang leader immediately began directing his men to secure the perimeter.
"Ghost Team, Phase 2, hit the convoy."
Miles away, the weapons shipment erupted in chaos. Precisely placed charges disabled the lead and rear vehicles, trapping the others. The professional security detail found themselves under attack from invisible opponents, highly trained operators moving through the forest like wraiths.
"Convoy is neutralized," Ghost 1 reported. "Minimal casualties, all hostiles contained."
Cross received the news through his earpiece, his calm facade cracking slightly. He gestured to his personal security detail, clearly preparing to evacuate.
"Not yet," Sarah whispered. "Let them feel the pressure build."
Harrison was desperately trying to maintain control of the meeting. "Please, everyone remain calm. This is just a temporary, The sound of explosions cut him off. The Steel Angels had begun their assault on Iron Wolves' weapons caches around town, using intelligence from Tommy to hit exactly the right locations. "Bishop, status?"
"3 warehouses burning. They're scrambling to respond, just like you said they would."
Cross stood abruptly, his security team moving to surround him. The briefcase remained firmly attached to his wrist.
"All units, prepare for Phase 3. Ghost Team, get ready to..."
Sarah's orders were interrupted by an unexpected sight. Jenny Miller had stood up in the middle of the town hall meeting.
"I have something to say,"
the diner owner announced firmly. Razor moved toward her. "Sit down, old woman. This isn't your time to talk."
"No,"
Jenny replied, her voice carrying clearly through the room.
"I think it's exactly my time."
She pulled out her worn notebook. "I've got records here. Every meeting, every deal, every bribe. Dates, times, amounts. Mayor Harrison, would you like me to start reading?" The mayor's face went pale. Cross's expression darkened as he assessed this new threat.
"Ghost Team, hold position," Sarah ordered. "This wasn't part of the plan, but let's see where it goes."
"You think your little notebook scares us?" Razor sneered, reaching for Jenny. That's when David and Russell made their move. Both former law enforcement officers stood, along with several other townspeople. The dynamic in the room shifted as people began rising from their seats, forming a barrier between Jenny and the Iron Wolves. "Well, well," Cross spoke for the first time, his voice cold and calculating. "It seems we have some local resistance to deal with. Razor, make an example." Razor grinned, drawing his weapon, but before he could act, Sarah gave the order she'd been waiting to deliver.
"Ghost Team, execute Phase 3. Bishop, push them east. All units converge on the town hall."
The chaos that erupted was precisely orchestrated. The Ghost Team emerged from hiding, their coordinated attack herding Cross's security detail exactly where Sarah wanted them. The Steel Angels pressed in from the west, while hidden operators controlled the escape routes. From her perch, Sarah watched the pieces fall into place. Cross and his men had the numbers and firepower, but they were reacting to a plan they couldn't see, fighting shadows and ghosts while the real threat closed in around them.
"Remember," she transmitted to all units, "we need Cross alive and that briefcase secured. Everything else is secondary."
The final phase was about to begin, and as thunder rolled across the mountains, Sarah shouldered her rifle and prepared to enter the fray personally. Because sometimes the only way to end a fight is to walk straight into the heart of it. Chaos erupted inside the town hall as Cross's security team formed a protective circle around him. Razor started barking orders, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of more explosions in the distance.
Ghost team, status, Sarah commanded, moving swiftly from her perch toward the building. East and west exits covered. They're boxed in.
Through the windows, Sarah could see Jenny being shielded by townspeople while David and Russell maintained control of their section of the crowd. The resistance was no longer hidden. The town had found its courage. "You think this changes anything?" Cross's voice cut through the chaos as he addressed the crowd. "I own this town. One phone call and I can have National Guard units here saying this is a riot. How many of you want to see your neighbors gunned down by military units?" Sarah's radio crackled. "Commander, Jack here. Just intercepted communications. Cross is making calls trying to get military support by claiming domestic terrorism." "Not happening," Sarah replied. "Execute Protocol Echo." Suddenly, every phone in the building lost signal. The look of confusion on Cross's face was priceless as he stared at his useless device. "What's happening?" Razor demanded. "They've got a tactical jammer," one of Cross's security team reported. "Professional grade." Cross's calm facade finally cracked. "Get me out of here, now." His security team began moving toward the rear exit, using Iron Wolves members as a screen. But as they approached the door, smoke grenades crashed through the windows, filling the room with thick white clouds. "All units engage," Sarah ordered, pulling on her night vision goggles. The ghost team breached from multiple points simultaneously. In the chaos and smoke, Cross's professional security found themselves fighting an enemy they couldn't see, couldn't communicate with, and couldn't escape. Sarah moved through the smoke like a wraith, her movements precise and lethal. Years of undercover training took over as she systematically disabled threats, working her way toward Cross. Mayor Harrison tried to run but found himself face to face with Russell. "Going somewhere?" the former captain asked before knocking him unconscious with a single punch. Razor pulled his gun, firing wildly into the smoke. "Come out and fight, you cowards!" Sarah's voice came from behind him. "Careful what you wish for!" Before Razor could turn, Sarah's strike hit him in the back of the knee. As he fell, a second blow knocked his weapon away. The gang leader found himself on his knees, staring up at Sarah through the thinning smoke. "You should have left Jenny alone," she said, before rendering him unconscious. Cross was backing away, his security detail falling one by one to the ghost team's precise attacks. The briefcase was still handcuffed to his wrist. "Commander," Bishop's voice came through the radio. "We've got the perimeter locked down. Iron Wolves are surrendering all over town." "Stay focused," Sarah replied. "Cross is our primary target." The arms dealer looked around frantically, realizing he was running out of options. His last two security members stood their ground, buying him time to reach for a small device in his pocket. "Ghost 3? He's got a dead man switch." Cross smiled coldly. "Stand back or I release everything. Every name, every operation sent to every major news outlet. How many of your fellow operators would die when their covers are blown?" Sarah emerged from the smoke, her weapon trained on him. "You'd be dead before your finger leaves that button." "Maybe," Cross admitted. "But are you willing to sacrifice that many lives? I remember Chicago, Detective Cole. You couldn't save your team then. Can you really risk more deaths now?" The mention of Chicago made Sarah's finger tighten on the trigger, but before either of them could act, a single shot rang out. Cross screamed as the device was shot from his hand with surgical precision. "Nice shot, Ghost 2, Sarah said, advancing on Cross. "My pleasure, Commander." Cross clutched his bleeding hand, his composure finally shattered. "You don't understand what you've done. The people I work for are about to have much bigger problems." Sarah cut him off, removing the briefcase from his wrist. "Jack, do you have control of the data?" "Affirmative. Ghost Team's tech specialist just finished cloning the drive. We've got everything." As the smoke cleared, the scene came into focus. Iron Wolves members and Cross's security team were zip-tied on the floor. David and Russell were securing Harrison and the other corrupt officials. Jenny stood proudly among her fellow townspeople, her notebook of evidence still clutched tightly. "Ghost Team, secure the package for transport." Bishop, sweep the town and make sure we didn't miss any surprises. David, Russell, I believe several federal agencies will be very interested in what's in this briefcase. Cross glared up at her from the floor. This isn't over. Sarah smiled coldly. Actually, it is. You just don't know it yet. The sound of helicopters approached as federal authorities, alerted by Jack's team, began arriving. The long nightmare that had gripped the town was finally ending. But as Sarah watched Cross being led away in handcuffs, she knew he was right about one thing. There would be consequences. The question was, who would be facing them? Federal agents swarmed the town hall, processing suspects and collecting evidence. Sarah stood off to the side, watching as Cross and Razor were loaded into separate vehicles. The ghost team had already melted away, leaving no trace of their presence. Jenny approached, carrying 2 cups of coffee from her diner. "Thought you might need this," she said, handing one to Sarah. "After all, you just helped bring down an international drug lord in my little town." "Your evidence helped make it possible," Sarah replied, taking a grateful sip. "Those notebooks of yours are going to put a lot of people away."
Detective Cole, a tall woman in an FBI jacket approached. "I'm Special Agent Rodriguez. We need to discuss what happened here."
"Of course." Sarah turned to Jenny. "Rain check on that coffee?" Jenny smiled knowingly. "Honey, after what you did for this town, you've got free coffee for life." In a makeshift command center set up in the sheriff's office, Sarah sat across from Rodriguez and 2 other federal agents. Her phone buzzed with a message from Jack. "Data secured. International teams moving on identified targets. Well done." "So," Rodriguez began, "want to explain how a former detective, a motorcycle club, and a diner owner managed to bring down one of the largest drug trafficking operations we've been chasing for years?" Sarah's response was interrupted by Bishop entering the room. He'd changed out of his motorcycle club cut into a suit that somehow made him look even more intimidating. "That would be where I come in," he said, pulling out a badge. "Special Agent Shaw, FBI Organized Crime Division. Deep cover operation, 3 years in play." Sarah hid her surprise well, but inside she was reeling. Bishop, or Shaw, hadn't just been playing along with her plan. He'd been running his own operation. "The Steel Angels?" she asked. "Mostly former military who now work as federal contractors," Shaw explained. "We've been building a case against Cross for years but could never get close enough. Then you showed up and started causing trouble, huh?" Rodriguez smiled, "and provided the perfect opportunity to spring the trap. Though I'm curious about the other operators involved, the ones no one seems to have seen." "What others?" Sarah replied innocently. "I just saw a lot of brave townspeople standing up for themselves." Shaw suppressed a grin. "The surveillance equipment mysteriously malfunctioned during certain periods. Very unfortunate." Outside, the town was coming back to life. Iron Wolves members were being rounded up across 3 states based on information from Cross's briefcase. Mayor Harrison and his corrupt officials were facing federal charges, and David had just been appointed interim sheriff with Russell as his advisor. Sarah's phone buzzed again. A message from Ghost 1. "Package secured, data transmitted, team dissolving. Good hunting, Commander." "One thing still bothers me," Rodriguez said, reviewing her notes. "Cross mentioned Chicago. Want to tell me about that?" "Classified," Sarah and Shaw said simultaneously. Rodriguez looked between them, then sighed. "You know what? I don't want to know. The brass upstairs is happy we've got enough evidence to put Cross away forever, and somehow nobody got killed. I'm calling it a win." As the federal agents wrapped up their initial investigation, Sarah walked back to Brady's bar. The place was packed with townspeople celebrating their newfound freedom. David and Russell sat at the counter while Jenny served her famous apple pie. Shaw fell into step beside her. "You know, we make a pretty good team." "Would have been nice to know you were FBI," Sarah replied.
"Would have compromised a 3-year operation. Besides," he grinned, "you didn't exactly advertise your backup team either."
"What team?" They walked in silence for a moment. "You know, the Bureau is always looking for consultants with your skill set." "Thanks, but I'm done with that life." This town is my home now. Is it? Because I heard about 3 other trafficking networks operating in Montana. Seems like the kind of thing a small town might need protection from. Sarah stopped, studying Shaw's face. Are you offering me a job or asking for help?
Maybe both. The Steel Angels could use someone with your expertise. Officially, we're just another MC. Unofficially, he shrugged. Well, someone's got to watch out for the little guy.
Before Sarah could respond, her phone buzzed one final time. Jack. New intel suggests Cross's associates are regrouping. Might be headed your way for revenge. Sarah smiled. Maybe retirement would have to wait a little longer.
Let me think about it,
she told Shaw. The next few days brought dramatic changes to the small Montana town. Federal agents continued processing evidence while news vans clogged the streets, all hoping to get the story of how a small community had brought down an international drug trafficking ring. Sarah sat in Brady's bar, watching CNN run a story about Cross's arrest. The news anchor was carefully avoiding any mention of mysterious operators or tactical teams, instead focusing on the brave local resistance led by a former detective. They're calling you a hero, Jenny said, refreshing Sarah's coffee, though they don't know the half of it.
They don't need to, Sarah replied. Better if some things stay in the shadows.
Her phone lit up with a text from David. Meeting at Russell's place. Important. 20 minutes later, Sarah found herself in Russell's living room with David, Shaw, and surprisingly, Special Agent Rodriguez. We've got a problem, Rodriguez began without preamble. Cross talked. Shaw leaned forward. What did he give them? Names, contacts, but more importantly, he revealed the existence of something called Project Echo, apparently a black book of every drug deal, every corrupt official, every hidden operation for the past decade. Sarah's expression remained neutral, but her mind was racing. She'd heard whispers about Echo during her active duty days. The briefcase didn't contain the complete list, Rodriguez continued. It was just a small part. The real database is stored somewhere else, and Cross claims his associates are moving it. Moving it where? David asked. Here. Rodriguez spread photos across the coffee table, satellite imagery showing convoys heading their way from 3 directions. These aren't just gang members. We're talking former special forces, intelligence operatives, mercenaries. They think we still have Cross's data, Shaw concluded. Or they want revenge, Sarah added. Either way, they're coming. David spoke up for the first time. How many? At least 60 operators split into 3 teams. They're professionals, well-equipped, and they don't care about collateral damage. Sarah looked worried. The town's still recovering. We're not ready for another fight. No, Sarah agreed. But we don't have a choice. If these people come here looking for Echo, they'll tear the town apart. Shaw studied the satellite photos. My team stretched thin running operations against Cross's other holdings. We can maybe get 10 operators here in time. The ghost team? Rodriguez asked, surprising everyone. At their looks, she smiled. Please, I'm FBI, not blind. I know someone helped you take down Cross, even if it's not in any official report. Sarah shook her head. They're gone, dissolved back into the shadows. That's how they operate. Then we work with what we have, Russell said firmly. This is our town. We'll defend it. Sarah's phone buzzed. Jack, got your satellite request. 3 convoys heavily armed. ETA 48 hours. Want me to make some calls? She typed back. Not yet. Let me try something first. I have an idea, Sarah told the group, but you're not going to like it. Try us, David said. We let them come, all of them, but we control how they come, where they go, and what they find when they get here. Shaw caught on first. You want to set a trap? The whole town becomes the trap. We use their assumptions against them. They're expecting to find Cross's data, so we give them something to find. Meanwhile, we pick them apart. Using their own tactics against them, Shaw finished. Rodriguez looked skeptical. That's insane. These are professional killers we're talking about.
So am I, Sarah replied quietly. And this time, I've got home field advantage.
She stood, moving to the window. In the distance, storm clouds were gathering over the mountains. Somewhere out there, 3 teams of killers were heading their way, thinking they were going to find a small town unprepared for their arrival. They were about to learn just how wrong they were. David, I need you to coordinate with the townspeople. Anyone who wants to leave should go now. Anyone who stays needs to be ready. Russell, start mapping out defensive positions. Every alley, every rooftop, every basement. I want to know this town better than they ever could. Shaw, I need the Steel Angels. All of them. She turned to Rodriguez. How much backup can you officially provide? The FBI agent smiled grimly. Officially, none. Unofficially, I can delay any response to reports of disturbances in this area for about 24 hours. That's all we'll need. Sarah turned back to the group. They're coming to our home thinking we'll be easy targets. Let's show them exactly how wrong they are. Thunder rolled across the mountains as the first drops of rain began to fall. The storm was coming in more ways than one, but this time they would be ready. The next 24 hours transformed the small Montana town into a carefully orchestrated trap. Sarah stood on the roof of Brady's bar, watching townspeople execute her plans with military precision. Jenny's bar had become their command center, its basement stockpiled with supplies and ammunition. East team reports they're in position. David's voice came through the radio. All civilian evacuations complete from that sector. Sarah watched through her binoculars as Shaw's Steel Angels took up concealed positions throughout the town. They didn't look like federal operators anymore. They'd fully embraced their MC cover, looking every bit the rough bikers they pretended to be. Jack, what's our status on the incoming teams? First convoy 20 miles out, moving cautiously. Second and third about an hour behind. They're coordinating their approach, planning to hit from 3 directions simultaneously. Sarah smiled. Exactly as expected. Her phone buzzed with a new message, an unexpected one. Ghost One's text read, Commander, team still dissolved, but 6 operators happen to be in the area. Strictly unofficial. Want some help? Thought you boys would never ask, she replied. Sarah. Russell's voice crackled over the radio. You need to see this. In the sheriff's office, Russell had the surveillance feeds displayed on multiple screens. The approaching convoys were professional, moving in tactical formations, but something was off. Look at their loadout, Russell pointed. They're carrying specialized breaching equipment, electronic warfare gear. They're not just coming for revenge, Sarah realized. They think Echo is here, hidden somewhere in town.
Is it? Russell asked carefully.
Sarah's expression gave nothing away. Would it matter if it was? Guess not. Russell studied the screens. They're going to tear this place apart looking for it. No, Sarah replied firmly. They're not. Her radio crackled. Commander, Ghost One. Team is in position. Permission to engage advanced scouts? Sarah checked the time. The storm clouds were getting darker, the wind picking up. Perfect conditions for what she had planned. Negative, Ghost One. Let them get comfortable first. Make them think they have the initiative. The first signs of the enemy advance teams appeared at the edge of town. Pairs of operators moving tactically, checking buildings and alleyways. They were good, but they were looking for obvious threats, not the kind Sarah had prepared. All units maintain radio silence unless emergency. Execute Phase 1. Across town, lights began going out in systematic patterns. Power to certain blocks cut, while others remained lit, creating a complicated patchwork of light and shadow. The approaching operators would assume battle damage or hasty defensive preparations. They wouldn't realize every shadow was deliberate, every dark alley a potential trap. David, status on our package? Ready to go. They'll find exactly what they're looking for, exactly when we want them to. Sarah had prepared a fake Echo database, filled with just enough real information to be convincing. When the enemy found it, they'd think they'd accomplished their mission. That's when the real trap would spring. Her phone buzzed again. Jack.
Main convoy accelerating. They're taking the bait.
Jenny appeared on the roof carrying coffee and sandwiches. Thought you could use these. Big night ahead. Emma, you should be in the shelter with the others. The older woman snorted.
This is my town, too. Besides, someone needs to keep you fed.
Sarah smiled despite herself. This was why they would win. Not because of tactical superiority or specialized training, but because they were fighting for home. The radio crackled once more.
Ghost 2, Commander. We've got movement, lots of it. They're not waiting for full dark.
Through her binoculars, Sarah could see the first major wave approaching, vehicles moving into position, operators deploying in textbook formations. They thought they were setting up for a systematic sweep of a small, underprepared town. Sarah stood, checking her weapons one last time. Remember, we're not just defending, we're hunting. These people came to our home thinking we'd be easy prey. Let's show them what happens when predators become prey. The storm finally broke, rain beginning to fall as lightning illuminated the approaching forces. In the distance, thunder rolled across the mountains like artillery fire. The battle for the soul of this small Montana town was about to begin, and Sarah intended to make sure it would be a night these operators would never forget. If they survived it. The rain intensified as enemy operators moved through the darkened streets. Their night vision equipment gave them confidence, but Sarah knew it would also be their weakness. They were looking through a digital green haze while her people knew every shadow by heart.
Ghost 1 status,
Sarah whispered into her radio.
First team moving into the kill zone. 20 operators moving in 4-man cells, heavy weapons, demo gear.
Shaw, Steel Angels in position.
Ready to create chaos on your mark.
Sarah watched through her scope as the enemy's lead element approached Brady's bar. They moved well, covering angles, checking corners. Professional, dangerous, but predictable.
Execute phase 2,
she ordered. Across town, the Steel Angels roared to life, their motorcycles thundering through the streets in what appeared to be a panicked evacuation. The enemy operators reacted exactly as trained, splitting their forces to investigate the new threat. They're dividing, Ghost 2 reported. Second convoy moving to intercept the bikers. David now. From his position at the sheriff's office, David triggered the prepared devices. Strategic transformers blew, plunging new sections of town into darkness while illuminating others. The enemy's night vision equipment suddenly became a liability as they dealt with rapidly changing light conditions. Multiple targets disoriented. Ghost 3 confirmed. Moving to engage. The first shots were silent, suppressed weapons taking out key targets in the enemy's command structure. By the time they realized they were under attack, the Ghost team had already melted away to new positions. Commander, Jack's voice came through her earpiece. Third convoy is holding back. Their commander's smart. He's realized something's wrong. Good, Sarah replied. That's what the package is for. On cue, they transmitted a burst of encrypted data, the fake Echo database, from a location near the center of town. As predicted, the enemy's electronic warfare team picked up the transmission. They're moving, Ghost 1 reported. All units converging on the transmission source. Sarah smiled grimly. Phase 3, all units execute at will. The storm above provided perfect cover as the real battle began. The Steel Angels abandoned their decoy run, instead launching coordinated attacks on the enemy's vehicles. Ghost team operators picked off anyone who tried to call for backup or establish a command position. But it was the townspeople who proved most effective. Every door that looked like an escape route led to a prepared ambush. Every shadow concealed a defender who knew exactly where to shoot. The enemy operators found themselves fighting phantoms, never able to establish control or consolidate their forces. Commander, Shaw's voice was tight with controlled excitement. They're falling back to preset rally points. No, Sarah ordered. They're falling back to where we want them. The fake Echo data had led them straight into the town's old warehouse district. a maze of buildings rigged with motion sensors and prepared firing positions. As the enemy operators sought cover, they found themselves being herded into increasingly smaller spaces. Ghost team status? 15 targets eliminated, 20 plus wounded. Rest are contained in the warehouse sector. Sarah switched channels.
Jack, what's the third convoy doing?
Finally moving in. Their commander must have realized his advanced teams are being decimated.
Perfect. David, initiate final sequence. The remaining streetlights shut down completely, plunging the town into total darkness. The storm above intensified, rain hammering down as lightning split the sky. Through her thermal scope, Sarah watched the remaining enemy forces cluster together in the warehouses. Their training told them to consolidate, to establish a defensive position. Instead, they were doing exactly what she'd planned, gathering in one location.
All units be advised, Phase 4 is active. I say again, Phase 4 is weapons free.
The remaining enemy operators never saw it coming. Ghost team snipers took out their leadership, Steel Angels cut off their escape routes, and the townspeople led by David and Russell maintained a constant barrage that kept them pinned down. But it was Sarah who would deliver the final blow, moving through the rain like a shadow as she approached the main warehouse where the enemy commander had established his last position. The man who'd led the third convoy, the one who'd held back thinking he was smarter than the rest. Time to show him just how wrong he was.
All units hold position, she ordered.
This one's personal. Lightning flashed again as Sarah moved toward the warehouse entrance. The real fight was about to begin. Lightning illuminated the warehouse interior as Sarah moved silently through the shadows. Her thermal scope revealed 6 heat signatures on the upper level, the enemy commander and his remaining elite team. Ghost 1, maintain overwatch. No one leaves this building.
Copy that, Commander. We've got you covered.
The warehouse floor was a maze of old machinery and storage crates, perfect cover, but also perfect for ambush. Sarah could hear the enemy team communicating in whispers, their voices carrying a familiar cadence. Former DevGru, she realized. Navy SEALs who'd gone mercenary.
Commander, Jack's voice came through her earpiece. Got an ID on their leader, Marcus Reaper Blackwood. He was in Chicago.
Sarah's blood ran cold. Blackwood had been there the day her teammates died, working for a different contractor. He disappeared before anyone could question his role in the operation's failure.
So, Blackwood's voice echoed through the warehouse. The famous Detective Cole. Been a long time since Chicago.
Not long enough, Reaper.
You know why we're here. Give us Echo and maybe some of these townspeople survive the night.
Sarah moved between shadows, changing positions, still hiding behind cover. Still hiding behind civilian casualties, Blackwood? Just like Chicago? A burst of gunfire replied, rounds impacting where she'd been seconds before. These weren't random shots. Blackwood's team was trying to herd her into a kill zone.
Baghdad was business, Blackwood called out. Just like this is. You really think your little town can stand against what's coming? Cross was just the beginning.
Ghost team, status on the other forces? Contained and neutralized. Steel Angels are running cleanup. Only targets remaining are in your building. Sarah smiled grimly. Hear that, Reaper? Your backup isn't coming. More gunfire, more controlled this time. They were getting frustrated, making mistakes. 2 operators moved to flank her position, but Sarah was already gone. You don't get it, do you? Blackwood's voice was closer now. Cross's organization wasn't the head of the snake. We are. Echo contains everything. Every operation, every contract, every killer for hire. With that data, we control it all.
Wrong, Sarah replied, her voice echoing. You don't control anything. Not anymore.
She triggered the devices David had planted earlier. Flashbangs detonated on the upper level, followed by smoke grenades. The enemy's night vision equipment became worse than useless as the warehouse filled with disorienting light and smoke. Ghost team, external threats? Negative, Commander. Building is secure. No reinforcements approaching. Sarah moved upward, using the chaos to her advantage. The first operator never saw her coming. A quick strike to the throat, another to the temple. Silent, efficient. The second tried to radio for help but received only static. The town's radio jammers were still active, cutting off all communication.
It's over, Reaper, Sarah called out. Your men are dead or captured. Your operation is blown. Surrender now.
Like your team surrendered in Chicago, the taunt was meant to enrage her, make her sloppy. Instead, it brought perfect clarity. Through the smoke and strobing lights, Sarah moved like a ghost. The third and fourth operators fell to precise shots. The fifth managed to get off a burst of fire before Sarah's knife found his throat. Then it was just her and Blackwood. You know what your problem is, Winters? His voice was behind her now. You still think like a cop. Honor, duty, protecting the innocent. The world doesn't work that way anymore. You're wrong. Sarah turned, facing him. That's exactly how it works. You just forgot. They moved simultaneously. Blackwood was good, one of the best. His strikes were precise, powerful, but Sarah had something he didn't. A reason to win that went beyond money or power. The fight was brutal and close. Bones cracked, blood flowed. Blackwood landed a crushing blow to her ribs, but Sarah absorbed it, countering with a strike that shattered his knee. Ghost team status? Still clear, Commander. End this. As Blackwood stumbled, Sarah saw her opening, the same move she'd used countless times in training, the one they taught every operator. This is for Chicago, she said, and struck. Blackwood's eyes widened as he fell, his last words barely a whisper. You don't know what you've done. Sarah stood over him, breathing hard. Actually, I do. Jack, uploading now. The real Echo database copied while they were chasing our decoy. Every name, every operation currently being transmitted to every major intelligence agency worldwide. Outside, the storm was finally passing. Dawn would soon break over the town, revealing the night's carnage. But for now, in the smoke-filled warehouse, Sarah allowed herself a moment of closure. Chicago's ghosts could finally rest. Her radio crackled.
Commander, area secure. All hostiles neutralized or captured.
Casualties?
None on our side. Some minor injuries. These guys were good, but they were fighting blind, literally and figuratively.
Sarah made her way down to the warehouse floor, where David and Shaw were coordinating with the ghost team on securing prisoners.
Final count?
38 enemy operators dead, 22 captured. No civilian casualties. Ghost team's already gone, and Shaw's people are back to being just another MC. Sarah nodded, feeling the weight of the night's events. Her phone buzzed. A message from Jack. Echo database causing chaos. Mercenary networks worldwide are falling apart. Lots of powerful people running scared. Commander Winters. Agent Rodriguez approached, looking surprisingly fresh despite the long night. We found something interesting in Blackwood's possession. A file about Chicago. Sarah tensed slightly. Classified operation?
Not anymore. Rodriguez handed her a thumb drive. Thought you might want to see it. Proves your team was set up. Blackwood was working with Cross even back then.
The truth finally comes out, Jenny mused, appearing with fresh coffee. Sometimes it just needs a little help, Sarah replied, pocketing the drive. David joined them, his arm in a sling from the night's fighting. Town council's meeting tonight. Emergency session to elect new leadership. Let me guess, Sarah smiled. Jenny's name came up. Among others. David looked meaningfully at the diner owner, who seemed surprised. Me? I'm just a bar owner who helped expose corruption and protect this town. People notice things like that, David pointed out. Sarah's radio crackled. Shaw's voice. Commander, got some interesting intel. Seems Blackwood's organization had other operations in the region. Might need someone to look into those. Thought the Steel Angels were just another MC, Sarah replied. We are, but sometimes another MC might need some professional consultation. Before Sarah could respond, Jack sent another message. Satellite shows movement near Canadian border. Similar patterns to Cross's operation. Could be nothing. Jenny noticed Sarah's thoughtful expression. Don't tell me you're thinking of leaving already. No, Sarah said firmly. This is home now, but home might occasionally need protecting from a larger radius. David grinned. You know, as sheriff, I might need a special advisor. Someone with tactical experience, extra legal knowledge. Are you offering me a job? More like a consulting position, very unofficial. Plenty of time to run the self-defense classes you've been talking about starting. Sarah looked around at the town, her town. The place she'd come to hide had become something more, a home worth fighting for, worth protecting. Ghost 1 to Commander. Her radio suddenly crackled. If you're taking that consulting job, might know some operators looking for occasional contract work. Strictly legitimate, of course. Of course, Sarah replied, smiling. Jenny refilled their coffee cups. Well, looks like Brady's bar might need to expand its back room. Make space for more private meetings. Planning for the future already? Honey, Jenny said firmly. After what this town just lived through, we're all planning for the future. A better one. The morning sun climbed higher, highlighting the damage that would need repair, but also illuminating the strength of a community that had faced impossible odds and emerged stronger. Sarah's phone buzzed one final time. Jack. Chicago file confirms everything. Your team's names will be cleared. Justice served. Finally, Sarah whispered, looking around at her newfound family. Jenny's maternal strength, David's determined leadership, Russell's steady reliability. Sarah felt something she hadn't experienced since before Chicago. Peace. But as Shaw had suggested, there were other towns, other threats. The work wasn't over. It was just changing shape. And somehow, that felt exactly right. 3 months after the battle that had changed everything, Brady's bar was busier than ever. The basement, once a simple storage space, had been renovated into what Jenny jokingly called the Situation Room, a secure meeting place for Sarah and her expanding network of allies. Sarah sat at her usual booth, reviewing reports from Shaw's teams about suspicious activity along the Canadian border, when David, now officially elected as sheriff, joined her with fresh coffee. Got something interesting, David said, sliding a file across the table. Remember those warehouse raids last week? Found documentation linking 3 state officials to Cross's old network. Loose ends, Sarah mused. They're all scrambling since Echo went public. Speaking of scrambling, Sarah nodded toward the TV mounted in the corner. The news was showing footage of another high-profile arrest, a weapons dealer with connections to Cross taken down in Seattle by unknown operators. Sarah smiled, recognizing Ghost Team's handiwork. Your friends have been busy, David commented. What friends? I just see effective law enforcement at work. The diner door chimed as Russell entered with Shaw, both looking serious. Problem? Sarah asked. Shaw placed a laptop on the table, showing surveillance photos. Remember how we thought Cross's operation was just about weapons? Turns out that was just the surface. We found evidence of human trafficking routes through Montana into Canada, using the same corridors as the weapons shipments. Multiple small towns involved, Russell added. Local officials bought off. Sound familiar? Sarah studied the photos. The pattern was clear. The same methods Cross had used now being employed by others trying to fill the power vacuum. How many towns? At least 6 that we know of, Shaw replied. All small, isolated, vulnerable, just like this one was. Jenny appeared with more coffee and her infamous apple pie. Sounds like someone should do something about that. Already happening, David said. Federal task forces being assembled. Very unofficial, very deniable. They're looking for someone to coordinate ground operations. Sarah raised an eyebrow. Let me guess, you recommended someone? Actually, Shaw interjected, we all did. The Steel Angels need direction for their more specialized operations. Ghost Team operates better with familiar command, and having a sheriff's special advisor provides useful cover. Plus, Jenny added, you need something to do between teaching those self-defense classes. The classes had been Sarah's idea, helping townspeople protect themselves, building confidence and community. The waiting list was now 3 months long. "What about here?" Sarah asked. "This town still needs protecting." David smiled. "We've learned a few things. Besides, you won't be far, just expanding the definition of home territory." Sarah's phone buzzed. "Jack. Got movement on those border cases, time sensitive, team standing by for your call." She looked around the table at her unlikely family. Emma's quiet strength, David's determined leadership, Russell's steady resolve, Shaw's tactical expertise, all part of something larger now, a network dedicated to protecting those who couldn't protect themselves. "Well," Sarah said finally, "guess I better stock up on coffee. Might be some late nights ahead."
Jenny smiled knowingly. "Honey, the coffee's already brewing, and my apple pie travels well, in case you're wondering."
Outside, motorcycles rumbled past. Steel Angels on patrol, keeping their towns safe while preparing for bigger missions. Somewhere out there, Ghost Team operators waited for orders, ready to strike from the shadows. And in a small Montana diner that had become so much more, a former detective realized that sometimes finding peace meant helping others fight their battles. "All right," Sarah said, opening her laptop. "Show me what we know about these towns. Let's help them like we helped this one." Because some fights were worth taking on, some causes were worth the cost, and some small towns needed to learn that they weren't as helpless as they thought. The next morning, Sarah met with her core team in Brady's basement. The Situation Room had evolved significantly. Multiple screens showing surveillance feeds, communication equipment, and a large table covered in maps. "First target is Millbrook," Shaw explained, pointing to a small town near the Canadian border. "Population 3,000. Started seeing the same patterns 2 months ago. Corrupt officials, mysterious property purchases, increased criminal presence." "They're following Cross's playbook," David added, "using small towns as distribution hubs. Local law enforcement either bought off or intimidated into silence." Sarah studied the intel. "What's our insertion point?" "Already handled," Jenny said, surprising everyone. "My cousin owns a diner there. Been telling me about strange changes in town, asking for advice. Perfect cover for initial reconnaissance." "You've been planning this," Sarah accused, but she was smiling. "Honey, I've been planning a lot of things. Those notebooks didn't just track corruption, they tracked patterns. And right now, those patterns are spreading." Russell laid out more photos. "We've identified key players, former Cross associates trying to rebuild his network. They think with him gone and Echo exposed, they can slip in under the radar." "They're wrong," Sarah stated firmly. "Damn right they are," Shaw agreed. "Steel Angels are ready. Ghost Team too, though they'd probably say they just happened to be in the area." Sarah's phone buzzed. "Jack. Satellite feeds established for target locations. Standing by for operational parameters."
What's our timeline?
Sarah asked. "They're moving fast," David replied, "trying to establish control before winter sets in. We've got maybe 2 weeks before they start major operations." "Then we move faster," Sarah decided. "Shaw, get your people in position. David, coordinate with friendly law enforcement in surrounding jurisdictions. Russell, we'll need your contacts in federal agencies. Jenny."
"Coffee and pie already packed," the older woman said with a wink. "And my cousin's guest room is ready whenever you are."
Sarah looked at the map, at the small towns marked as targets. Each one was someone's home, someone's community. Each one deserved the chance to stand up, to fight back. "Commander," her radio crackled, Ghost 1. "Advance team in position at 3 target locations, standing by for your order." Sarah thought about how this had all started. A simple confrontation in a bar, bikers thinking they'd found an easy target. Instead, they'd triggered something much bigger, something that was still growing. "You know," Jenny said thoughtfully, "when my herald started this diner, he said it would become the heart of the town, a place where people could come together, feel safe." He was right. But he never imagined it would become something more, a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for other communities. Sarah's phone lit up with another message from Jack. New intel suggests major operation forming in Pacific Northwest. Multiple towns targeted. They're using Cross's old playbook. Looks like our work isn't done, Emma commented. It never is, Sarah replied. But that's why we do it. Below, the town continued its evening routine. Families walked safely down streets that had once belonged to criminals. Businesses thrived without fear of extortion. And in the distance, more Steel Angels arrived, preparing for the next mission. You know what I learned here? Sarah said finally. It's not about being the biggest or strongest. It's about being willing to stand up, to fight back, to show others they can do the same. And that's why you'll keep going out there, keep helping other towns find their strength? Someone has to. Jenny smiled, heading back toward the stairs. Well, just remember, there's always coffee waiting here, and people who have your back. The morning sun painted Millbrook's Main Street in shades of gold as Sarah sat in her cousin's diner, drinking coffee and observing. A week had passed since they'd begun their operation, and the small town's transformation was already visible. Security cameras on every corner, black SUVs patrolling the streets, fear in the residents' eyes. More coffee, Miss Stevens? Jenny's cousin Martha asked, using Sarah's cover name. Thanks. Sarah watched through the window as two men in expensive suits entered the building across the street, the same building that had housed the town's newspaper until it mysteriously shut down last month. Her phone buzzed. Ghost 1. Target building secured. Documentation confirms money laundering through 6 local businesses. Shaw's team in position for Phase 2. The door chimed as David walked in, wearing civilian clothes and carrying a toolbox. His cover as a traveling handyman had allowed him to map out the entire town's infrastructure over the past week. Water main by the old factory's ready, he said quietly, sliding into the booth. One signal and half their facilities lose pressure. Sarah nodded. Just like in their town, the criminals were using infrastructure control as a power play. Unlike their town, Millbrook wouldn't have to wait for a violent confrontation to fight back. Agent Rodriguez called, Martha said, topping off their coffee. 3 FBI teams standing by, all officially investigating business fraud 2 states over. The plan was coming together faster than their original operation. Experience had taught them efficiency, and their growing network provided resources they hadn't had before. Sarah's radio crackled softly. Commander, Ghost 2. You're going to want to see this. Storage facility behind the old mill. They're moving something big. Numbers? 20 guards, professional setup. Whatever's in there, it's important. Sarah checked her watch. The town council meeting would start in 2 hours. The perfect distraction. Shaw, status on your people? Ready to make some noise on your mark. Local chapters already established cover as rowdy bikers causing trouble. Town's edge expecting us to try something tonight. David? Local resistance organized. 20 business owners, dozen former military. They've been waiting for a chance like this. Sarah thought about how different this operation was from their first. No need for dramatic confrontations or last-minute plans. This time, they were the ones in control from the start. Martha's been amazing, Jenny said, joining them during her break. Got half the town's gossip network feeding us intel without even knowing it. Just like you taught me, Martha replied with a wink. Amazing what people will say when they think you're just a harmless diner owner. Sarah's phone lit up with multiple messages. Jack. Satellite confirms vehicle movement patterns. They're consolidating assets for a major shipment. Ghost 1. Facial recognition got a hit. 2 former Cross lieutenants in town. They're running this personally. Rodriguez. FBI teams in final position. Green light for operation whenever you're ready. They think they're being subtle, David mused, watching another black SUV cruise past, following the same playbook that failed in our town. Because they don't know what really happened, Sarah replied. The official story never mentioned Ghost Team, the Steel Angels' true nature, or how deeply we'd penetrated their organization before striking. Speaking of penetration, Shaw's voice came through her earpiece. My prospect just got invited to join their security detail. kids nervous but holding it together.
Tell him he's doing fine. We're almost there.
The door chimed again. Russell entered, now playing the role of a corporate consultant helping small towns modernize their police forces. The perfect cover for coordinating with local law enforcement who wanted to fight back but needed support. Council meeting's been moved up, he reported. They're getting nervous, started offering bigger bribes, making more direct threats. Sarah smiled. Everything was proceeding exactly as planned. In their effort to take control quickly, the criminals were making mistakes, creating patterns they could exploit. How many towns simultaneously? Martha asked. 6, Sarah replied. All coordinated, all happening tonight. Ghost teams split into cells, Steel Angels providing muscle, FBI teams ready to move. Just like dominoes. Hit one, the rest fall in sequence. Her phone buzzed one final time. Jack. They took the bait. Electronic intercepts confirm they're moving their main database tonight. All 6 locations preparing for data transfer. Just like last time, David said. They never learn. Sarah stood, leaving money for the coffee. That's because they still think like criminals, looking for angles, seeking leverage, trying to control through fear. They don't understand that some things are more powerful than fear. Like what? Martha asked. Community. Hope. The knowledge that you're not fighting alone. Outside, the sun was setting over Millbrook. In 5 other towns, similar scenes were playing out, seemingly routine evenings masking carefully orchestrated operations about to unfold. Sarah keyed her radio. All units, Operation Domino is go. I repeat, Domino is greenlit. Execute according to plan. Across 6 states, hidden operators emerged from shadows. Steel Angels roared to life, their engines drowning out the sound of tactical teams moving into position. And in 6 small towns, people who had lived in fear began to realize that this night would be different. The enemy thought they were repeating Cross's success story. Instead, they were walking into a trap 6 months in the making. Because Sarah and her team hadn't just defeated Cross's organization, they'd learned from it, adapted its methods, and turned them into weapons for fighting back. Her phone buzzed with multiple acknowledgments. Ghost team. Moving to positions? Shaw. Steel Angels rolling. Rodriguez. FBI teams initiating. David. Local resistance ready. Russell. Law enforcement assets in place. Jenny. Coffee's hot and pie's waiting for when you're done. Sarah smiled at that last one. Some things never changed, and that was exactly why they would win. Because while the criminals saw assets to control and territories to dominate, Sarah's team saw communities worth protecting and people worth fighting for. Time to show them, she whispered. What happens when small towns stand together? The night was about to become very interesting indeed. Twilight painted the Montana sky in shades of purple and gold as Sarah stood on Brady's bar's roof, watching the town settle into its new normal. Steel Angels patrolled the streets alongside David's deputies, while townspeople went about their business with a newfound confidence. Her phone buzzed with updates from last night's operation. Ghost team reporting successful interventions in 3 border towns. Shaw coordinating with federal agencies. Jack sharing satellite data on new threats. The network they'd built was growing, protecting more communities, saving more lives. Jenny climbed up to join her, carrying 2 cups of coffee and wearing her newly earned mayor's pin on her apron. Penny for your thoughts? Just thinking about how much has changed, Sarah replied. When I came here, I was looking for a place to hide. And instead, you found a place to stand and fight. Below, David's patrol car pulled up. The new sheriff had proven himself more than capable, transforming the department into something the town could be proud of. Russell, now his chief deputy, had trained a new generation of officers who understood the importance of protecting their community.
Got the latest numbers? David called up. 3 more towns have requested our consulting services. Seems word is spreading about what happened here.
Sarah smiled. The official story was simple enough. A small town standing up to organized crime. But throughout the region, a different message was spreading. There were people willing to help if you knew how to ask.
Her radio crackled. Commander Ghost 1? Border operation complete, package secured, hostages freed. Local authorities taking credit as planned.
Good work, Sarah replied. Get some rest. I have a feeling we'll be busy soon. Emma watched the sunset with knowing eyes.
You're heading out again, aren't you?
Just for a few days. There's a town in Idaho. Reminds me of how this place used to be. Scared, vulnerable, looking for someone to show them how to fight back.
Something like that.
Shaw's motorcycle rumbled into view, the Steel Angels leader looking every bit the gruff biker despite his federal badge. He nodded up at Sarah, a silent confirmation that preparations were complete. You know, Jenny said thoughtfully, when my herald started this diner, he said it would become the heart of the town, a place where people could come together, feel safe.
He was right.
But he never imagined it would become something more, a symbol of resistance, a beacon of hope for other communities. Sarah's phone lit up with another message from Jack.
New intel suggests major operation forming in Pacific Northwest. Multiple towns targeted. They're using Cross's old playbook.
Looks like our work isn't done, Sarah mused. It never is, Jenny replied. But that's why we do it. Below, the town continued its evening routine. Families walked safely down streets that had once belonged to criminals. Businesses thrived without fear of extortion. And in the distance, more Steel Angels arrived, preparing for the next mission. You know what I learned here? Sarah said finally. It's not about being the biggest or strongest. It's about being willing to stand up, to fight back, to show others they can do the same.
And that's why you'll keep going out there? Keep helping other towns find their strength?
Someone has to.
Emma smiled, heading back toward the stairs. Well, just remember, there's always coffee waiting here, and people who have your back.
Sarah watched the last rays of sunlight fade over the mountains.
In her mind, she could see the other towns waiting for help, the other battles that needed fighting. But now she wasn't fighting alone. She had a family, a network, a purpose.
The quiet woman drinking coffee in a small-town diner had become something more, a symbol of hope for those who needed it most. And as night fell over Montana, Sarah Cole smiled, knowing that somewhere out there, another town was about to learn what happened when you messed with the wrong person.
Because some stories don't end, they just change shape, becoming legends that inspire others to find their own strength, their own courage, their own way to fight back.
And in a small diner in Montana, that legend had only just begun.
Time to move, Sarah said, checking her gear one last time. Idaho won't save itself.
Jenny handed her a thermos of coffee and a box of her famous apple pie. Give 'em hell, honey. And remember,
I know, Sarah smiled. Home is always here when I need it.
As she climbed into her truck, Sarah caught sight of movement on nearby rooftops. Ghost team members providing invisible protection, just as they had that first night. Steel Angels fell into escort formation, their bikes rumbling like distant thunder. Her phone buzzed one final time. A message from a small diner in Idaho. Help us, please. We heard what happened in Montana. Sarah started the engine, the familiar weight of her badge and weapon providing comfort. The road ahead was long, but she wasn't walking it alone anymore. Behind her, Brady's Bar's neon sign flickered to life in the growing darkness. A beacon of hope in a world that desperately needed it. And somewhere out there, another small town was about to learn that sometimes the most dangerous person isn't the one making threats. Sometimes it's the quiet woman drinking coffee, waiting for her moment to stand up and fight back. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out.